So let's see how an improper data looks like. So I will again click on get data. I will click on Excel workbook now, and I will select one file. So let me select a file. So I select this file, fashion sales dashboard. Yeah. So when I select this file has only one sheet, which is the name, which is by the name dashboard. So when I click on this dashboard, I can see the preview of this data. Can you see the preview of the data? Do you feel the data is in proper format?
No.
Right. Why it is not in proper format? Because you see nulls, lot of nulls. You see column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, column 5, column 22. The column headings are also not proper. There are lot of rows which are empty at the start. The actual data is somewhere present in the middle. It is not exactly present in the start from row number 1. It is present something from row number 14, 15, like that. So the data is not in proper format. So in such case, what you actually need to do is you need to clean this data before you can actually load it into Power BI. So for that case, I can click on this checkbox for dashboard, and instead of loading the data this time, I will actually do the transformation. Okay, so I will click on my transform data button. Okay, so let me click on transform data button here. So this is my transform data button. When I click on transform data button, a new window opens, which we call it as Power Query Editor. So what is Power Query Editor? Power Query Editor is the pre-processing engine of Power BI. If I have a file which I want to load, but that file has issues, that file has some blank values, some columns missing, some columns are need to be added. Okay, if I have such scenario where I want to pre-process the data before actually loading it into Power BI, then I click on transform data and I clean it in Power Query. Once this Power Query window closes, then only your data actually goes into Power BI desktop. Till the time you are in this window, your data still stays here, and it looks like what you are seeing in the preview window. So in the preview window, this is what you saw. You had this fashion sales dashboard data. Okay. Yeah. So you had this fashion sales dashboard data, which is like this. In this case, if I scroll it to the right, I can see all the columns. There are a lot of columns which are empty. This is the total data. And yeah, these are the list of columns that I have. Okay. In this Power Query, all the tables that you have loaded so far in your report or in your file are clearly visible on this left hand side. So you have loaded financials, we have loaded P60 debit crisis, and we have seen trial balance. So you can click on this each and every table and you can see the data. So you can see for P60 debit crisis, you can see for trial balance also, and you can see it for dashboard also. Okay. Now an important thing to remember here, guys, is if you see the other three files have proper columns and proper data, but this sheet doesn't have the proper column and proper data. How do I know this? An example of it is this column. This fashion sales dashboard column doesn't have any value. How do I know this? I can check it here. See, only null value. If you check second column also has null values. Like that, column 3 I think has some value. Column 4 also has some value. But if you see column 5 has just the heading, nothing else. Column 6 also has just the heading, no data. Column 7 also has just the heading, no data. And from column 8 to column 22, you don't see any data. So basically, these are your list of columns which are totally empty but are present in your Excel sheet. Next thing, if you see carefully, now if we go by column wise, you can actually see your actual data is starting from row number 14. In column 3 and column 4, you see some data, and that data actually starts from row number 14. So I think the state and all change is your heading, and after that some data is present in this Excel sheet. So I think this row number 15 till row number 22 is your value. Then again here also row number 15 to row number 22 is your actual value. Okay, So based on analysis from here, you can clearly understand what is the type of data that is actually stored in your columns. Clear with this? Any questions? Okay, moving on. Now the next thing that you have to do is you have to yeah, now the next thing that you have to do is in order to clean this data, you'll have to perform certain steps. Now what Power Query does is every step that you're going to perform will be performed with the help of click operations and drag and drop operations. So how does Power BI or Power Query editor knows which step you're performing? For that, it is maintaining a tracker here. So this tracker that you see, applied steps, this is called as the tracker for every sheet. So for every sheet, if you are going to do any operation, it is going to keep track here. It is going to add that step here, any operation that I perform. Okay, so let's start now. So in this table, the first issue that I see is that the data doesn't start from row number 1. The actual data starts from row number 14 here, state and all change. This is my actual column heading, and below that the data is there. So I don't have any data till row number 14. So what I want to do now is I want to remove the first 13 rows, okay, since they are not containing any data. Okay, so for that I can remove the rows directly by the step known as remove rows. So if you see on the top, you will see one option called as remove rows. Okay, so when I click on this remove rows option, I see different options. So I have remove top rows, remove bottom rows, remove alternate rows, remove duplicates, remove blank rows, and remove errors. So from here, I will select the option remove top rows. Since I have most of the values at the top which are of no use, so I am selecting the remove top rows option, and from here I am selecting the number. Okay, so for here I know that the data resides from row number 14, so I am specifying 13. So what it will do is it will delete the rows from the top. The top 13 rows would be deleted from here. Okay, now when I click on this OK, see what happens on this applied step section. Okay, see what has happened is the top 13 rows were removed from the table. Okay, and another step was added here on the right hand section, which we call it as remove top rows. So like this, it is keeping track of what is being done to your data. Now let's say if I want to see the data before this step was applied. So this is the step where I have removed 13 rows, but I want to see how the data was used to look like before this step was applied. So for that, you can click on the previous step. So this is your previous step. So in the previous step, this is how your data was looking like. When you perform this step, this is how your data looks like. If you feel that this step is wrong and you want to remove it, so click on this cross icon. So you see this cross icon. When I click on this cross icon, the step is deleted and I'm back to my original step. Again, if I want to add this step again, I can add it from here. So I can click on this. Let's say I specified 12 and I have deleted those rows. Now I had to delete 13 rows, but by mistake, I have deleted 12 rows. So I want to delete one more row. So no need to add the step again. You can edit this step again. So in order to edit this step again, you see this nut icon here. So click on this nut icon here. And from here, the same window will open. So here, change the value from 12 to 30. And you are back to your data. Clear with this? Any questions? Anyone?
No, sir.
Okay, moving on. Now the next issue that you see here is you have data in column 3 and column 4. But if I see column 1, column 2, then if I see column 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 till column 22, every column is null or every column is empty. So I don't need these columns in my output table, because anyway, since it doesn't contain data, they are of no use to me. So what I can do is I can select the columns and I can delete them also. So I will select first column, then I will press Control. I will select second column, and from here I will select remove columns. So when I select remove columns, the columns will be removed. So if I want to see how the data used to look like before this step was applied, I can click on the previous step. So this is the step where you remove the top rows. This is the step after removing top rows, you remove the columns. So this is how the data is looking like. Now the second step is I need to remove all these columns. So in order to remove these columns, you can select the columns and press Shift. all the columns would be selected and you can remove it. Or the second way of removing the columns is by selecting the columns that you want to retain. So for example, I know column 3 and column 4 has data, so I have selected column 3 and column 4. I want to keep column 3 and column 4 and I want to remove the other columns. So select column 3 and column 4. From this drop down, select the second option, which is called as remove other columns. So when I select remove other columns, only these two columns would be kept. The other two columns, other columns would be removed. Clear with this? Any questions? So you have two options in remove columns. One is remove column, second is remove other column. So select the columns you want to remove or select the columns you don't want to remove. Both of the options are available. Now this is your final data which you have finally cleaned and which is finally ready to use. So from here you can actually use this data for further cleaning purpose. Now if you see, if you remember your financial table also, I'll show financial table. See the heading of financial tables. See the column headers of financial tables. Segment, country, product, discount, unit sold, manufacturing price, and see the heading of dashboard, column 3, column 4. So usually if I have column 3 and column 4 as my headings in graph also or in visualization also, I will see column 3 and column 4. But my actual heading is not column 3, column 4, it is state and all chains. Okay, so for such cases, what I want is the state to be my new heading for column 1 and column 3, and all change to be heading of my column 4. So what I actually want to do is I actually want to promote my state and all change value to be my headings. So for that, I have an option here called as use first rows as headers. So when I select this option, use first rows as headers, state and all change become my heading. Okay, now your data is cleaned. Now your headers are proper. And now you're ready to load your data into Power BI desktop. So this is the only data which will now go to your Power BI desktop. So in order to load this data into Power BI desktop, click on file and select close and apply. When you select close and apply, what will happen is it will close this window and it will apply all the steps, and the final output that it gets after applying this step is loaded into Power BI desktop. Okay, so let me click on close and apply here. So you can see my dashboard table is loaded. I can see it on the top here. If I want to verify if it is loaded properly or not, I can go to data tab, and in the data tab, I will be able to see my data. So I will click on this dashboard, and in the dashboard section, I will see my data. Clear with this? So in this section, you can see this is the final output data that has been loaded. Now I can prepare my visualization. So in order to prepare visualization, I will select numeric column first and non-numeric column later. And I am done. Clear with this? Any questions so far? Okay. Yeah.
Hi, Praful. Anurag this side.
Yeah,
I
Anurag.
have that we took two columns, so all the other columns will be discarded, or that will be still available. So next time I need a make correction to include one more column. So do
Yeah, I
have
can do this. Yes. I am about to cover that thing only. Okay.
Okay.
So basically what happens is everything that you have done it in the Power BI itself. Meaning I have deleted the data, I have removed the rows. So this doesn't mean that the original source is affected. If you open that Excel sheet and if you see the Excel sheet, you will still find those 13 rows, you will still find those empty columns. Okay, but for us within Power BI, we have cleaned our copy, and this is the final data that has been loaded. Okay, Anurag? Now let's say, to answer your question, we'll continue from here. Now let's say you have performed certain steps, but you feel those steps aren't correct. So what I want to do now is I want to revisit the steps that I have performed in Power Query. So in order to revisit your step, click on this transform data button here. When I click on transform data button, I can again see my Power Query editor. So in here, I can come back anytime. I can add any step. I can remove any step, and I can close and apply, and that step would be performed. So let's say I feel these steps are wrong. So I remove the steps. and then I do the steps again. So I select this column again, I keep this column, I keep this column, I say remove other columns. So one step performed instead of two now. So it will retain only column 3 and column 4. And then what I will do is, once this is done, I will promote the headers. Yeah, so this is my data. So I will say use first rows as headers. Now my steps are performed, and now I click on close and apply. So like this, if I need third column, if I need fourth column, so I can remove those columns, I can deselect the step, I can remove the steps which are added earlier, I can add new steps. Those are the set of options which are available. Once you click on close and apply, those new steps will be applied to the data, and you will be able to see the new data here in the data tab again. I hope that answers your question, Anurag.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so like this you can do the steps again and again. You can revisit the data. That is why they have given this option. Because problem with reporting is, let's say I prepare a report on 5 columns. I prepare my report, I submit to the management, and while review they found out that something is missing. Now they tell me to prepare the report on the 6th column. They want me to prepare the visualization on the 6th column, but I have deleted that. So in that case, that is not the issue for us. We'll just go to Power Query, we'll retain that 6th column, and we'll click on close and apply, and we shall be able to see the 6th column and prepare our report. That is how usually it works. Okay.
Profil, hello.
Yeah, please.
Preview window shows means the correct data start from 300 and 400 rows. So preview window shows that data only view top 100 or top 50.
Your question was not clear to me. Can you repeat that? I was hearing a lot of noise. Yeah.
So I just want to ask means in preview data, the correct data start from after 300 rows, after 400 rows. So how we identify in preview data, we view that data.
Yeah. So in reality, your Power Query editor can load 1,000 rows. Okay, for every data. Okay. So within 1,000 rows, you'll be able to profile what is wrong with your data. We'll see those options. Okay. Okay, moving on. Now this was the first file. Let's try to clean or pre-process another file. So I will click on get data. I will click on Excel workbook, and now I will select another file. So let me select another file. So this is my file error.xlsx. I select error.xlsx file. So I will see the list of tables present here. Okay, so this is my table, and this is the preview of the data. So when I click on preview, I see the preview. So if you see carefully, the preview isn't looking proper. Column 1, column 2, column 3, column 7, column 8. Data is not proper. Some columns are empty. So yes, I cannot load it. I will click on transform data. Now when you click on transform data, again Power Query will open. You'll see list of tables that are already loaded plus the new table that you have recently loaded. Okay. So this is my new table which is loaded. Now based on the data that I see in the preview, okay, this is my data. Okay, so this table has close to 110 rows. You can read the 110 rows here. Okay, now in here you have column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4, column 5, column 6, column 7. In this I see data in column 4, 5, 6, 7. Column 1, 2, 3 are blank. They have no data. Next thing is the data also starts from row number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the data actually starts from row number 6. Row number 6 actually has the heading, and just below that you have the data. So we need to, I think, remove the rows from the top 5 rows, and then afterwards we have to remove the first 3 columns. Okay, so let me start with this. Whether we remove columns or whether we remove first, it doesn't matter. So let me remove the columns first. So I'll select all 3 columns by pressing shift button. I've selected all 3 columns. I'll go to remove columns and I'll select remove column. Once I select remove column, you can see the step is added here. If you want to see the data before that, you can click on the previous step and you can see how the data was looking like. Okay, this is how the data looks like. Now the next thing is this. So in case of column 4, 5, 6, 7, now we have to remove the rows from the top. So we have 5 rows as empty. So I'll go to remove rows. I'll select remove top rows. And from here, I will select 5. So when I select 5, the rows would be removed and I will see the data. Okay, now date, KPI, expected, actual are not my columns, but column values, but they are my column headers. So what I want to do now is I want to use date, KPI, expected and actual as my column headers. So for that I can use the use first row as header option. So let me click on use first row as header option here. My header is promoted. I feel the data is proper. Now I click on file and I click on close and apply. My data is loaded. Data is loaded. So let's click on table. So when I click on the table, so my table name was sheet 1. Let's see the data. Yeah, the data is proper. Date, KPI, expected, actual. But if I carefully look into the data, I see some issues. Can you help me identify the issues in the data?
Date values, few dates are not present in a date column.
Correct.
Also in actual column, there are dash null values. Sorry.
Yes. So Shreya, just to point it out, what you have said, what this is pointing to is, if you see it carefully, your date in front of your date column, you're not seeing calendar icon. See this financial table. If you see this financial table, if your date column is proper, calendar icon should be present in front of it, which is not present here. Second thing is, if your column is numeric in nature, then you see summarization symbol, right? Do you see summarization symbol in front of actual column?
No.
That means it's not a numeric column. So though it is showing you numbers, it is not numeric column. If you want to really check it out, click on the actual column. What is the type of actual column here? Text. If you really want to check the date column, check the date column data type. What is the data type of date column? Text. So both these date and this actual column, they do not have the correct data type. That is one of the issues. Okay. So the next step that you have to do is I'll again click on report now and I'll go to transform data. Okay. So the next step that you have to do here is changing the data type. So the first step in cleaning is removing the unnecessary rows, removing the unnecessary columns. And after that, in Power Query, you have to check the data type of each and every column. This step has to be done in your Power Query editor only. Always remember that. Okay. So the next step that you have to do is you have to see the data type of every column. So I'm in the sheet 1 and I'll check the data type. So an important tip, or I would say the thumb rule that I would give you is, make sure no column has data type as ABC123. So in front of every column, you will see something is written. So in this case, you can see ABC123 written here. You can see ABC, you can see 123, and you can see actual column also ABC123. So we have to make sure that no column has data type as ABC123. Power Query Editor detects the data type as ABC123 when it is confused. It is confused whether this column is alphabetical, whether this column is numerical, or whether this column is date. Whenever it is confused, it will always give you the data type as ABC123. For example, in this date column, you have dates, but in between dates, someone has mistakenly written NA. So instead of date, he has written NA. Because of this, Power Query editor got confused whether this column is date or whether this column is text. Exactly similar to this, as Shreya pointed out, in the actual column, if you see, someone has mistakenly written hyphen. So because of that hyphen, Power Query editor got confused that whether this column is numeric or this column is text. So that is why it has classified it as ABC123, a column which can contain anything. And this is not good. Why it is not good? Because when we clicked on close and apply, the actual column was detected as text. So when actual column is detected as text, it means that it cannot go on y-axis. Similar to this, if you see this date, if this date data type is not detected proper, what will happen is this date data type column will never go to your x-axis. You will not see the date hierarchy. You will not see quarter, month, day information populated. It will always just show you the dates, and in the dates you will also see NA, null, these type of values. So these type of values are bad for your visualization. So you need to clean it before you can actually send it to Power BI desktop. Clear with this? The thumb rule, remember the thumb rule, no column in Power Query editor should have data type as ABC123. As simple as that. Okay. Now, once we have this issue, once we have this ABC123 data type, what to do? What we need to do is we need to clean this data. We need to change the data type of this column. So in order to change the data type of this column, what I can do is I can change the data type by right clicking on the column name. So for example, this is my date column, and this date column should have data type as date. So for that, I can right click on this column. I can go to change type, and from change type, I can select the data type. So these are the list of options available under the data type section. So you have decimal number, fixed decimal number, whole number, percentage, date, time, time zone, duration, text, true, false, binary, or using local as the option. So from this change type option, select the date, since your column is only storing the date, not the date time. So when I select this date time, you will notice out one change. Okay, what is that change?
Showing error.
Yes, it is showing error in the 15th cell, right? In the 15th row for column number 1. Why it is showing error? When I click on this error, you can see the message. We couldn't parse the input provided as date value. So what this means is it tried to convert NA into date and it failed to convert. That is why it is giving you the error. Okay. Exactly similar to this, I have this actual column. So this actual column is storing whole numbers. There is no decimal point here. So I will convert this into a data type. So I will click on change type, and from here I will select whole number because this has no decimal point. Now when I select whole number, observe the row number 17, column number 4 value. There also I get an error. And when I click on this, I see the error. What is the error? We couldn't convert this to number. So there was hyphen present and it failed to convert this hyphen into a number. That is one of the primary reason it is giving us the error. So similar to this, we have a lot of errors in both the columns because of the data type conversions. Okay. Notice that in case of null, it is not giving you the error. So what is null? Null is like an empty value which is present. Okay. So null is not an error, but it is just an empty cell that is present here. Okay, so you can replace this value anytime. We'll see that option also. Okay, clear with this? Any questions so far?
No question.
Yeah.
Here in column date column, this null value is case sensitive, or how is it? Even
Yeah.
if it is, yes.
Yeah, it is a case sensitive value. For example, this null is not something which is a value. Okay, so if I show you the Excel sheet, it is just a blank cell. So no matter what you do, the null spelling will not change. It will still remain the same. Same NULL in small. Okay. So 15th row, I think not 15th row. Yeah, 7th row, right? So see the 7th row value, 7th row column 1. What is the value? There is no null here. It is just an empty cell. So empty cells are usually detected
But
as,
here is the empty cell is considered as null value,
yes.
not NULL, but specific
No,
null.
no, it is not a text. It is just
Okay,
an
okay.
empty cell.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving on. Now we have encountered errors and we want to proceed, or we want to clear these errors. Okay. So for cleaning out errors, we have three options. Okay. First option is called as keep error. Second option is called as remove error, and third option is called as replace error. Okay. So keep error option, what it will do is it will list out the list of error rows in your table. So all the rows which have error will be directly displayed in the keep error option. The second option is called as remove error. So as the name suggests, it will remove all the rows which have error. So if there is any single error in any single cell of a specific row, that complete row is removed from the data. So that is your second option, which is remove error. And the third option is replace error. So in case of replace error, what happens is we replace the error cell with certain specific value. Since replacing the value is very data type specific, for example, if I want to replace anything in the date, I will have to obviously replace it with date. If I am in the numerical column, I will have to replace the error with a numerical column, right? So in that case, replace error option is available to you in the column level. It is not available at the table level. Okay, we will see that option. So the first option that we will see is keep error. So before that, till this step, we have how many rows? We have total 104 rows and we have total 4 columns. And this information is displayed here. Okay. Now let's say I want to see the list of rows which has error. So for that, I click on this table icon, which is available here. Sorry for that. So I click on this table option here. And from this table option, I select the keep error option. Okay. So this is my keep error option. Okay. So when I click on this keep error option, I see the list of rows which has errors. So if you carefully observe, now the row count has reduced. So you had 104 rows earlier. Now you have 12 rows here. So out of 104, close to 12 rows have issues and the 92 rows are perfect. Clear with this? So from here, I can see the list of rows which has errors. Okay. Maybe if I want to copy this error row data, I can copy it and I can go to any Excel sheet and I can paste it there. So I can go to a new Excel sheet and I can paste the data that I have copied. So this is my row which has issues. Okay. Why this step is given? What happens is usually you are not the creator of your data. Okay. Data is provided by some other person or some other application. Now, let's say if you encounter some issue in that data. So you're not the person who is actually going to fix this issue. You are going to actually report this issue to the person who has given you the data. So what I will do is from this keep error option, I will get list of all the errors. I will copy it. I will send an email, or maybe I will just inform the person who has given me the data saying, boss, your data has issue in this rows. Can you fix it? So what they will do is they will try to fix these issues in the data and then they will provide it to us. Okay. I will just replace my file and I will just reload the file again in my Power BI and I will be done with the errors. Okay, that is why this keep error option is given. Okay, clear with this?
Um, one question, Praful. So I just if I want to create a separate table for the error thing, can I just create in a Power BI itself, not on another Excel file?
Yeah, you can do it. Now let's say I am here. Okay. Now what you want to do is you want to keep this data, correct?
Yes.
For that, I can write, you can see this query section. So this query section lists out all the tables that are present to you. Okay. So in here, I can right click and I can click and select the option as duplicate.
Okay.
So this is my duplicate table. So in here, I will rename this table as my error table. Okay, rename. So this will store your errors. Now I'll come back to sheet 1 and I will delete this step. So this has combined data and this sheet has your error data.
Okay.
Clear with this?
Yes.
Yeah, but problem with this is, Shreya, if I have error table and if I click on close and apply, it will not allow me to load the remaining files. It will give me an error. It will say that your some of the tables have error, clean them or remove them before you want to load it. And because of this error, the other tables are also not loaded. That is the issue here. Okay, that is why it is important to remove the errors that are present in your data.
Okay.
Okay.
So just in case, I'll mm, tell you a scenario where I create a dashboard with all Excel sheet I have, and in that dashboard I'll include the error wala part as well.
Okay.
So in such scenario, what I can do, so it's okay. Even if it is a table format, I don't need a graph or anything. It's just a table format. The same table I just want to replicate on the dashboard thing. So in this scenario, how we can deal with it?
So in that case, what I will do is I will replace error with the error keyword or certain specific values, and then I will show those values directly on the dashboard. Okay, like
Okay, understood. Yes.
that. Yeah. Because this is an error for me and for Power Query also. So because of this, it will try to block the loading of other tables also. That is why we have to deal with errors. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me delete this one now. Yeah. Moving on. So this is my sheet one. Okay. Now within this sheet one, I will perform the next set of steps. Now the second step that I can do, this was keep error, which is just used to view the information, view the list of errors. Now the second option that I have is called as replace error. So if you remember, when I did the keep error, the total number of rows with error were 12. Okay. Now I select the second option, which is remove error. So I click here and I select remove error from here. So this is the remove error option here. Now observe the row count. As of now, the row count is 104. When I click on this, what happens? What is the row count now? 92. So 104 minus 12 would actually give you 92. So all the rows which had errors, they are automatically removed from your table. Now you have only clean data. Okay. This option of remove error is usually not recommended because it leads to data loss. And if I'm losing out on data, then my report may not be sufficient. My report data will not be sufficient, or it may not be complete. That is why removing data is not recommended. Okay. But what we say is we fix the criteria based on the size of this data sets. Okay. So based on size of data set, sometimes we decide whether we want to remove the data or whether we want to keep the data. Okay. For example, if I have 10,000 rows and if I remove 100 rows from 10,000, then that is not a big number because I still have 9,900 rows with me to process it. But imagine that I have 100 rows and I try to remove 10 rows. Then in that case, 10 rows out of 100 is a huge data. So in that case, I cannot remove that. In our case also, if you see, we have removed 12 rows out of 104, which is huge. Now we are reduced to 92 rows. Okay. So that is why removing the data or performing the remove error step is usually not recommended. Okay. So this is the second step. Now the third step is replace error. So if you want to replace any row or if you want to replace any data, then you have the replace error option. So the replace error option, like I said, is available at the column, because when I want to replace the value, it depends on the column data type also. For example, if I have error in date column, I will replace it with date. If I have error in my numerical column, I will replace it with numerical. If I have error in my text column, I will replace it with text, like that. Okay. So in such cases, I can replace the error with different values. So let's say I connected with the person who has provided me the data, and he has told me wherever you see error in the date column, replace it with 1st January 2021. And wherever you see error in the actual column, replace it with 0. So these are the two inputs that I've got from the data source owner. Now I want to replace it. So to replace the value, right click on the date column name and select the replace error option. So in this case, it will just ask you to replace the value, replace the error with certain specific value. So select here and provide your value. So here I have selected date column. So I need to provide the date value. See, if I type only 1, it is giving me the error. It is giving me the error because you are trying to replace the value in date column. So you have to type a date. I'll select this date from here and I click on OK. Now observe the 15th row, column 1 value. Do you see the error now? It's gone. Exactly similar to this, I click on actual column, I select replace error, and from here I specify the value. I say replace this with 0 and I click on OK. Done. So these are the three options that are available to you. First is keep error, which will just list the rows with errors. Second option is remove error, which will remove the rows with error. And the third option is replace error, which will replace the error with certain specific value. Now, if you carefully observe, once your data is cleaned, okay, now you can load the data to your Power BI desktop. Now, like I said, this null is a specific value which is blank. If you want to replace this value, for that also I have an option called as replace value. So I can right click on this column, I can say replace values, and I can replace the null with something else. So I'll say replace null with, let's say, 31st December 2021, and I click on OK. So when I click on this, my data is cleaned. And now when I go to file and close and apply, I should see the correct data type in my Power BI desktop. So let's see there in the data tab. Okay, so let me click on data tab here and now see the data type of sheet 1. Can you see the actual column data type? It's numeric. Can you see the date column data type? Can you see the calendar icon in front of date column? Yes. Can I see the date hierarchy? Yes. That is why changing the data type is really important. That is why handling the error is important. Clear with this? So these are the three set of options that are available to you. First is keep error, second is remove error, and third is replace error. Always try to remember you'll have to at least perform one of them. Usually we do not perform keep error, we usually perform the remove error or replace error. So usually most of the time it is replace error. But yeah, if you don't have any specific value and your data set is used, then you can also perform the replace error option. Clear with this?
I have a doubt. Okay, usually in data cleaning process, say for example in a date column, usually the what steps we perform is we arrange the date column either by ascending descending order and copy the previous cell value. So this many times this is the standard way. So if the same thing I want to perform in the Power Query itself, so can we do it?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
yeah.
You can do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have to write a separate query in a Python in
No.
how is it?
I have a button called as fill up and fill down in Power Query. So if
Okay,
I
button directly button.
yeah,
So
if I
okay.
press fill up, it will replace the value above the blank cell. And if I do fill down, it will replace with the value which is below the blank cell. Fill up and fill down.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So this is how you can clean the data. Now let me click on transform data button again, and we are back to Power Query. Okay, so there is an important concept which is remaining, which I will show you just now is while cleaning the data for the sheet 1, you might have observed one thing. So what was that one thing? So what the thing is, when you change the data type of date column and actual column, you saw one red color here. See this red color? So whenever your column or your specific column has an error, okay, so in that case, that column is shown in the red color. So that column, whenever if I have any errors in my existing columns, I can see that error with the help of this red color. And if I go to the last step where I have replaced every error and every value, then that line is shown in the blue color. Clear with this? So this is also an indicator. I think Anurag or someone asked me this question, right? Where we have preview of the data, rows at 400, 500 cells. How would we know? So from this line, you can actually know what type of data your column contains. So this blue line indicates valid data. This red line that you see indicates error. Okay. And if you carefully observe here, there is this black color also here. So this black color here indicates blank cells. So if I have blank cells, I will see black color. If I have error, I will see red color. And if I have valid data, I will see blue color. Okay. That is how we can analyze our columns. Now, in order to analyze columns, we have been given 3 options. So those 3 options are available under this view tab. So the first option that is available here is called as column distribution. So when I go to view tab and when I click on column distribution, it will show me the number of distinct and number of unique values present in my column. So from here, I can understand how many distinct values and how many unique values I'm actually dealing with. Okay. So in here, I have 92 distinct, 90 unique, 26 distinct, 0 unique, 101 distinct and 198 uniques, 97 distinct and 96 unique. So from here, I can understand how many unique values I'm dealing with. Okay. What is the difference between distinct and unique? Can anyone answer this?
Distinct are unique, I mean, non-repetitive values.
And unique?
Unique are like 1, 2, 4 are unique, and 1 and 4 are unique, and 1 to 4 are distinct.
Yes. So when I see this data 1, 2 to 4, in this case, I have 3 distinct values 1, 2, 4. Distinct, you can remember it as different. And when we say unique, unique means for it has to appear only once. So in this case, 1 and 4 are the values which are appearing only once. So I have 2 uniques. Okay. Uniqueness means the value has to appear once, and distinct means the different types of values you are dealing with. So this is how distinct and unique is there. So this is what it is showing. Now in this distinct and unique bar, you can see it is showing a lot of information like this bar is up, this bar is down, this bar are same. So if I want to see this information, what are these bars, what are they actually conveying? So these bars are actually conveying how many times each value is appearing. So some values are repeating here. You can see 3 bars repeating again and again. In here, I see 2 bars repeating most of the times. In here, I see 1 bar repeating again and again. So if I want to see this information, I have the second checkbox, okay, which we call it as column profile. Okay, so column profile will give me the column statistics about my column. Okay, so when I click on this column profile, this is the set of information that I usually see. So in here, I see my total number of values in this specific cell is 104. Total error values are 0. There are no empty cells. Distinct values are 96. Unique values are 96. I don't have NaN values, but I have zeros. So there are 8 zero values. I have minimum as 0. I have maximum as 9937. My average is this much. My standard deviation is this much. My even values are this much. My odd values are this much. So out of 104, you have close to 54 even values and 50 odd values. Okay. Now the same value distribution, the same graph that you see here is visible here. So when I click on this bar, I can know which value is appearing how many times. So if you see here in the actual column, there is a value called as 0, and that is appearing 8 times. And that is close to 7% of the total values. The rest of the values, if you see it, they are appearing only once. Okay. So like this, you can see the information with respect to every column. The second column is your text column. Let me pick up this KPI. So in this KPI, this is a text column. So all you see is count, error, empty, distinct, unique, empty strings, minimum and maximum. And if I go to date, I will also see limited information. So count, error, empty, distinct, unique, minimum, max, average. And in here, you can also see how many times each value is appearing. So you can see we have replaced certain error cells and empty cells. So empty cells were replaced with 31st December. So you can see there are total 8 values for empty cells, 31st December. And if you see 1st January, for 1st January, you have 6 cells. So these are the 2 values which are repeating again and again in your date column. Clear with this? So this is how I know I have the empty values, distinct values, and from column statistics, I know which value is appearing how many times. Okay. And the third checkbox that I have, which I use a lot, which I keep it on all the time while reading any data, is column quality. So basically, column quality tells me how many percentage values are valid, how many percentage values have error, and how many percentage values are empty within a specific column. So in this case, you have cleaned your data, you have removed the empty cells, you have removed your error rows. That is why you don't see any error. But if I go to previous step, for example, if I go to this step, you will see the percentage. So in here, you can see your error is 4%, which is close to 5 values. And in here in the actual column, you have errors, which is close to 7%. And this 7% means 8 cells or 8 values have error. Okay. One important thing to note here is whenever you have error, the valid percent and empty percent will not be shown. Unless and until you solve the error, the valid and empty percent will still show you blank or hyphen. Okay. Now let's say if I replace the error, which I did in the next step. So you can see, now I can see the valid and empty percent. So here valid is 92, error empty is 8%. Now when I replace the actual column value, in here I can see valid is 100%. There are no error cells and there are no empty cells. Okay, so with the help of this column, always you will be able to directly understand your column, directly able to understand whether your column has any error, whether your column has any empty cells. Okay, and based on that, you can load the data or you can perform the next subsequent.